Enshrouded's update of Wake of the Water has brought into perspective a lot of really nice builds that are available now with the update, and I'm going to show you some of the melee builds that I really enjoy. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Enshrouded content. So starting out, one of my first builds that I love is the two-handed Berserker. Now this can be used with a two-handed mace, this can be used with a two-handed greatsword. It's really just take your pick, whatever you think works best. Honestly, I like the mace, but greatsword is pretty good, and there's an update on the horizon. The first ability that we are going to go ahead and look at, and when we're looking at the tree, is going to be double jump. So starting out from the center, we're going up towards the survivor route, and we go with endurance, runner, and then double jump. That right there gives us a lot of mobility, allows us to escape, and we have a little bit of endurance, which increases our stamina. Can't recommend that enough, and it's fairly quick to get to. Within, 7 skill points, you'll be able to get there. Now, from here, our another major attack points are going to be for heavy specialization, blood rage, as well as whirlwind crescendo. This does an extra spin to win attack at the end of our baseline attacks. You can't underestimate how important that is, how strong that is. So from there, we are going to go strength, heavy-handed. We're going to go strength again, constitution. Now we can go either or. Personally, I like the relentless trait line because then it gets us to the whirlwind crescendo faster. But from here, the first one that we are going to go to is constitution and heavy specialization. Heavy specialization is just very, very strong. It allows you to attack faster with two-handed weapons. So it's too good to pass up. From there, you can get barbarian, where you get 1 level of strength for every 2 levels of your flame, which is a good extra bonus, just flat right there, as well as going into blood rage. You kill an enemy within 10 meters with a melee weapon. The damage done with melee weapons is increased by 20% for 10 seconds. Such a strong ability, and it's pretty straight lined right there. From there, I like to go up to bash, as well as strength, and then whirlwind crescendo. This does cost stamina, but it is such a hard-hitting ability, and it hits everyone in an area. Can't overestimate how strong that is. It is such a strong ability. Now from there, one of the things that I like to focus on is going down here towards battle heal. So we go down towards the tank trait line. We go into constitution, shiny plates, evasion attack, and battle heal. Whenever you critically hit with a melee weapon, you will heal for 5% of your max HP. It's so critical. You got to have that. That's like one of the best abilities in this game, battle heal. And this is a small little node. Now from there, there's a number of different ways to go. If we are looking to have more of a focus on damage, then we would go down the warrior trait line. If we want a little bit more endurance, we start heading up towards the survival. Personally, I like the mobility of the survival train first, or the survivor area first. So we would go into endurance, wanderlust, good metabolism, rebound, and rebound. That right there should give you more than enough endurance. It's a crazy amount of stamina regeneration, and it happens very, very quickly. And then from there, you're basically set up with all the endurance that you're going to need. Around this time, whatever you decide, either going up towards the survivor or down towards the warrior trait lines, you're probably going to want to start looking at getting giant slayer hook and grounding hook. The reason being is that these abilities are incredible, especially if you're a melee oriented build. You got to have grounding hook. Grounding hook is going to snatch any of these big bads out of the sky, and you're good from there. Once you get these two, I like to move down the warrior's path, which if I'm doing a two-handed hammer, I'm going to go constitution, warrior's path, strength, brute, hammer time, flat 30% increase to all blunt damage right there, veteran, which gives us a flat 10% increase to critical hit chance, and then oh, no, not Swift Blades. And then go into Strength. Swift Blades is only for one-handed weapons, by the way. So we would go down this route. This is where our focus would be. You can have a variant of doing great swords right here, which is Titan Edge. But if that's the type of weapon that you have that does mostly blunt damage, if you're using a hammer, that's great. If you're using something that has piercing or slashing damage, you can go either of these ways. Just keep in mind as far as what your build is particularly doing. Now, one thing that I like to stack on top of this is the crash down attack, as well as the crash down with force. Because your hammer deals a hell of a lot more weapon, deals 50% more weapon damage in a small blast radius and costs stamina according to the weapon's weight. So it does cost quite a bit of stamina, but it deals a lot of damage, 70% extra damage on that one attack. Just swinging down is such a heavy hitting ability, especially if there's a group of enemies that you haven't fully engaged with and you catch them by surprise. Really does a lot of damage, and it's really, really strong. From here, we grab up any of the strength nodes that are nearby. I personally like grabbing those two up there. You can move down into some of the shockwave and then the breach, which is more oriented around parrying. You can try to parry these and go from there. I find it to be a little bit harder with the two-handed hammer. Personally, once I get all of that, I like to go down the tank route. So we go with heavy plates, constitution, tower, strength, earth aura. And then with some extra points, we get warden, which just reduces magical damage by 15%. It's a flat damage decrease. So I mean, it's really, really strong. And then from there, you can kind of pick out which you want to go. But that's the main aspect of the build. So if you want to go with that more like power damage ability or power parry build, you can go with breach and shockwave. You can go with, I believe that's actually merciless attack. That's the one that you're going to want. Merciless attack, power parry, and then opportunity. If you do these three, this opens up the heavy damage from your shield, a well-timed block for any of the weapons that are coming in, and then it's basically a one-shot, truth be told. Also, as I usually include with most of my builds, going up towards dexterity, airborne, and then updraft. Updraft is just good for mobility. Yeah, so that is the two-handed barbarian build with a little bit of flexibility. You still have 50 points that you can move around and try different things and utilize for your own build, but just keeping that in mind, that's about where we would be. For the gear for the Berserker build, you're going to be looking at anything that's going to be focusing on two-handed weapon damage or critical hit chance, such as the Mountain Shadow or the Sun Piercer set. The weapon can really be any two-handed weapons, but I prefer the hammer for just absolute maximum damage. We'll have to see what the Greatsword rework with 1.0 when it comes out will change. For consumables, I like the meat and grain buffs as that increases the maximum health and melee damage. You can look to get some combinations of those with some of the more rarer food, and then in the third slot, I like to get something that is going to regenerate my stamina. Unironically, the black coffee drink is perfect. Now, moving on to the blocking power parry build. This is with a sword and shield, axe and shield, hammer and shield, whichever one you choose. We will go with endurance, runner, and double jump immediately. That's the first ones that we go to. 1, 2, 3. From there, we are going to go down here towards our melee-oriented build because we're looking at the shockwave. So we're going to go with strength, heavy-handed, strength again, constitution, breach, and then shockwave. We get to shockwave when we stun an enemy or we parry an enemy. A shockwave pushes them back. And it's fantastic. It's a really good thing. It builds up a bunch of stuns on nearby enemies that get pushed back, so it's very, very strong. Once you have all these, go into merciless attack, power parry, and then opportunity. You'll find that right there you're able to just block and cause a whole bunch of stun bar issues for enemies immediately. It's fantastic. Highly, highly recommend always having those go through. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can go with this. Now, ideally, you don't want to get Relentless because Relentless is for two-handed weapons. It's really not all that strong. I always make the mention, and even though heavy specialization really isn't where we're looking at, Blood Rage is such an overpowered ability that you can just skip over this. Yes, it does cost 5 skill points, but going into Blood Rage, which is a flat 20% damage increase for killing an enemy, I mean, it's just too strong. From here, we're at 41 points. We're going to want to go into our battle heal. So we go Constitution, Shiny Plates, Evasion, Attack, and Battle Heal, because around that time is when we're going to need to have a little bit more sustain. And then also around this time, we're going to grab Giant Slayer Hook and then Grounding Hook. Again, pulling giant enemies towards us. We got to be able to attack them. Now from here, I like to go into the Survivor trait line. So Endurance, Wanderlust, Good Metabolism, Rebound, 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 and then we are essentially set for our stamina regeneration. Now we flesh out with our damage, and this is one of the more critical aspects, and you can't skip it. We're going to go Constitution, Warrior's Path, strength. Now here we can go in 3 separate ways. I would recommend either doing if it's a thrust, piercing damage, blunt damage, I would recommend these two because you can kind of get capped with the greatsword if you're not using it. But whatever one you use, so thrust, pierce, into veteran. Veteran is the most critical, one of the more critical abilities that you need to have with this build. This allows you to get the flat 10% damage increase or a critical hit increase. Gotta have it. And then from there we do swift blades, which allows us to attack faster with one-handed swords and axes. Grab this strength node just because we're here. From here, I like the route of going into the tank oriented build. So we would go heavy plates, we go constitution, we go tower, we go strength, we go earth aura. I might grab warden here at this point. It really depends. But I could also come up here and flesh out, say my weapon had piercing and cutting damage. We would use slasher and butcher here. You can, in this regard, go up this way to finesse and then backstab mastery. Again, 30% increase for damage done from the back is really strong, which would require you to do crash down attack, which again is one that I always recommend anyway at some point to pick up. It's not as important, but going to the strength ability, vigorous deflection is very important. Bash is very important because it deals extra blunt damage, and then going up this way to finesse as well as backstab mastery. From there, this build is pretty set up and is pretty strong in its own right. Now you can go over here to dexterity, into updraft. That is a possibility. You can get some other things like backstab damage, increase the damage you deal from behind. That's a good one to have if you're not face tanking enemies, like probably what you would be doing with the Berserker build. You can go into warden. You can pick up any of the strength nodes. You can pick up thick skin. There's a lot of different possibilities that you can go into. But this is roughly where we would be looking at if we were doing a power parry oriented build. For the power parry build, the gear that you will need is something that thrives on melee damage and merciless attack. So technically, any of the Mountain Shadow and Sun Piercer sets could actually work, but arguably the Wolf's Fang set would be the better choice until we get a new set that mirrors that for Veilwater. Any melee weapon will do, but your big focus is going to be shield. You're not just looking for standard blocking shield, you're looking for the one that increases the power parry capabilities. For consumables, it's exactly the same as the Berserker build on meats, grains, water, buffs like that for melee damage, health, and stamina regeneration. Now, this is a test build that I've been trying to mess with, and it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong, and it's very simple, and I'm kind of mad of how stupid it is. But it's using a wand, and you're kind of a power melee build, or I should say, magic mage build, I don't know. I haven't come up with a good name. But what we're looking at is, again, going the endurance, runner, and double jump route. From here, we are going to look to go down the wand route first. So we're going to go with intelligence, arcane deflection. We're going to go with intelligence again, unity. We're going to get sting. We're going to get life burst. Life burst is very important because it causes you to get some health when you kill an enemy. I mean, I'm just saying. Like if you're near the target, you get healed all of it. So it's really, really strong. You're going to want to go down to spirit, life essences, which is just going to flat and it makes you a tank, basically. It's so strong. And then you're going to want to get exalted. This is going to be your primary damage. You're going to be using the wand almost 100% of the time. And it's just so stupid how much damage it deals. After that, we're going to look to go up the Trickster route because there is a handful of, we'll say, little one-off nodes that do really good damage. We could go down the Wizard route as far, and again, this is where some of the testing is coming in. And I haven't found exactly which one I like the best, but personally, I would say go down the Wizard route. So we would do Spirit, we would do This Is the Way, we do Spirit again, and then we're going to be up here near the Radiant Aura and then the Sun Aura. So we're going to go with Arsonist, Pyromaniac, Intelligence, Wizard, Chain Hit, and then Mass Destruction. Because your wand, I believe, constitutes as a magic weapon, a magic damage, it seems like it works. Let me put it this way. This is like the first mage build that I've gone ahead and done. It seems like this is a very effective route to go. And it deals a lot of damage, and it's so stupid how easy it is. It's just point and click. From here, we can get Radiant Aura and Sun Aura if you're jumping into the Shroud a little bit more often. From here, I personally like to go down I like the Necromancer if you're using it for a magic weapon. Not necessary though. From here, I like to kind of go into Blink and then doing Emergency Blink and then Spirit, extra mana right there, being able to jump around. We can go all the way down here to Wand Mastery, Eternal Spark. We're going to have to get Shroud Resistance, and that's fine. But we go Shroud Filter, Water Aura, and then Waters of Life. This right here will just give us so much damn sustain. It's not even funny. It's actually kind of comical. Now, because we're going to be a tank in this regard, I like to go either down the Warrior or the tank trait line or the Survivor. Again, Survivor, it can't be understated. Going to Wanderlust, Good Metabolism, Rebound, Rebound, Rebound. That amount of stamina regeneration is absolutely huge. I cannot stress that enough. Once we're here, I like to pick up the Radiant Aura and then the Sun Aura so that I'm dealing extra fire damage based off of my intelligence. And then from here, we're going to go kind of down this route. So we can go with Spirit, Counter-Strike. So after you receive damage, there's a 20% chance to reflect 50% of that damage back at the attacker for fire damage. This is magical attack, can trigger other skills. Keep that in mind. From there, we're going to go with Spirit or Intelligence. Actually, I want to go Intelligence here. Be Gone, which I think is a very funny skill, by the way. It's really, really a funny skill. And then we're going to look to go down the Terror trait line, or the Terror into Arcane Concentration. I mean, you can work your way over to Blood Magic and all that, but Terror on critical hit with a spell, target is to be stunned. It seems like it may work with a wand. I'm not 100%, so keep that in mind. Again, I will be the first one to say that I'm not as experienced with magic builds, but I'm pretty sure that it works. But this is also towards the end, and you can kind of test and see what works best. From there, I just go ahead and grab whatever intelligence nodes that are nearby that I can grab that are going to help out, because the more intelligence that you have, the better that you go. And then from there, we go into the tank. So Constitution, Shiny, Plates, Heavy Plates, Constitution again, Tower. You can go into Earth Aura. I like to just go Tower and Warden right there. So I just take a flat % of damage lost right there. And then you can go actually down into this route, which is when you suffer magic damage, you have a 10% chance to generate a mana for each health point lost. 10% mana when triggering the Merciless attack. That won't be necessary because we're not doing that here. But yeah, essentially this build is kind of stupid. It is, but it's fun and effective. For the Battlemage, it's a little bit tricky, is that you are going to want to run gear that is a mix of armor that increases your defenses, like Brazen Bull or Golden Bulwark, but also mix it with like the Hailcaster or the Tidecaller set. Specifically anything that's going to help with wand and magic damage. Ideally, look to get a really good wand and a shield that work well together. Try to match it with something that does fire damage, but if not, you can reorganize your skills to fit whatever one you have. For food, I always go with meat just for the flat HP increase, mushrooms for magic damage, and something to increase your stamina. So, like, again, you might want to go down the like chamomile tea route or something along those lines. So yeah, those are the builds that I would go ahead and try out with Way of Water. The Berserker and the Power Parry, those are my more common builds. However, the Mage build, the Wand Tank build that uses a sword and shield, or the Wand Mage build that uses a shield and a wand is. So go ahead and give it a shot. See, tell me what you guys think. See if you guys actually enjoy this. This is all just for fun. And guess what? It doesn't take anything to reroute the skills and make them work a little bit better for you. So if you find something more effective, let me know. If you guys are just new to Enshrouded and you're looking for a place to pop your first major base, you can click this video here where I highlight all the immediate areas that you can get a really good base very, very early. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.